Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. I am Ray Flowers, your host here for about the next 55 minutes. We're going to cut this one short a little bit today. My continual trips to the doctor are resulting in me having to leave a couple minutes early. So instead of an hour and 5 minutes, we'll probably go about 55 minutes today. But don't worry, it'll be jam-packed with lots of excitement and fun. You catch the show Fantasy Sports Daily right here, Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. When I say right here, I mean you can catch the show at Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, YouTube.com/AdElitePlusNetwork. Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. Any of those three areas, you can watch the show. So if you want to see us talk and me talk and Tyler Beaker when he joins us in a bit, you can watch us in any of those three locations. You can also obviously catch the show on demand in any of those three spots. You can also leave live comments and questions and whatever you want to muse on in the chat room while we're watching. So in any of those three spots, you can do that live. If you want to watch it again on demand, you can still do that. You can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network, wherever that might be. And you should be able to find us there too. So you can take us on the go with you in the podcast form. And then you can always go to FG, click the Elite Plus tab at the top of the page. And that will take you to One Man's Opinion, which is a free show, Justin Fenchman's Basketball Diaries, Romano Marsal's Mind of Marsal, and then this show, Fantasy Sports Daily, right at the top there, Elite Plus, at FantasyGuru.com. I'm Ray Flowers. You can find me on the Twitterverse, the Instagram machine, the Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. Try me at the Ray Flowers. I got run around this morning. I had a bunch of things. So I took the dog for a walk, got up at 6:15, took the dog for a walk. Came home, fed the squirrels, unloaded the dishwasher, did dishes, took garbage out. Had a lot of things going on this morning. So I apologize. I didn't get a chance to answer a couple of questions in Discord. I'm then running after the show to the doctor's appointment. I'll get the answers in a couple hours. So don't worry. We'll get those answered for you over at FantasyGuru.com. And that's part of the package at FG. You get access to whatever product you sign up for, whether it's football or basketball or hockey or even baseball. You get Discord rooms. And in the case of baseball, like we've got a seasonal baseball room, we've got a wagering baseball room, we've got a DFS baseball room. You get a guarantee, not a guarantee, but a guarantee to get an answer in 24 hours. Most of the time, it's much quicker than that. Most of the time, it's an hour or two, right? So that's part of the product. Go to FantasyGuru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, and get signed up. For any and all products, we're covering football, as we'll talk to Tyler Beaker about here in a few minutes. We're doing baseball, obviously. We're rocking and rolling. You can always get that MVP plan, which is basically everything but football and baseball. The MVP plan is hockey, basketball, NASCAR, PGA, MMA, golf, horse racing, all of that. Subscribe tab, top right corner. Or you can always send a note, support at FantasyGuru.com, support at FantasyGuru.com. All right, here's the show plan for today. We're going to talk TOUT WARS 50-team mixed league, got a bunch of drafts and all that. I thought we'd go through another one here. I wasn't in this one, though I hosted it. We'll talk a little bit about the first round and kind of some roster construction there. I thought it'd be good to spend some time on oblique injuries. Right, Langford's coming back for one. Jordan Walker's dealing with one. Andy Ashby's dealing with it. Adolis Garcia, on and on and on. It's like every day there is a new person dealing with an oblique injury. So what is an oblique injury? What the hell's going on with all this stuff? We'll talk a little bit about that in detail. And then we'll visit with Tyler Beaker. Hopefully he moved into his new home real well, or he's moving in. I'm sure it's not all done. We all know how that goes. You move in and there's always a box in the corner for 3 months. But hopefully he's settling on his new digs. We'll ask him about it when he joins us in about 25 minutes. Lots to talk about with football, combine questions. The Bears making huge moves. 2 guys coming in to help them out on the offensive line. DK Metcalf is now available. Look at that. Yeah, we'll see what that deal looks like. T. Higgins looks like he's going to stay with the Bengals. They're still saying they're going to trade Cooper Kupp. The Seahawks are looking at, they've already moved on from Tyler Lockett as well. So there are 2 guys there basically looking to remake apparently the whole receiving core. Christian Kirk was released. What's going on with the 49ers now? The Deebo Samuel's out. On and on. We'll talk to Tyler, a bunch of topics with him in a bit. Okay. As you can see there on the screen, I'll leave it up just for one more second. For those of you that want to get nuts, you can copy and paste the link to this TOUT WARS draft that we're going to talk about in the description. It's in the description below. So you can just click on it. Boom. There you go. You can also go to at SiriusXM Fantasy on Twitter and just find the board there as well. Can't really put them on the screen here because it just doesn't transition over. I apologize for that. But as you can see there, I listed the first round of players. Again, you can find the link for this in the description below. Okay, so what we're talking about here is a 15-team mixed league. Again, I was hosting this draft. My 15-team Tout Wars, which is the alternative league that was fortunate enough to win last year. That has on-base percentage replacing batting average, innings pitched replacing wins, and solds replacing saves. That's a 15-team mixed league. That write-up is free over at fantasyguru.com. This 15-team Tout Wars mixed league keeps wins, keeps saves, but still uses on-base percentage instead of batting average. They only have one change in this league. We have 3 changes in my league. So, there's always the players that go up a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a second here. And we had a bunch of these people on the broadcast the other night giving thoughts on their team and how it came together and all that. Thought I'd look at the list the first round and talk to you a little bit about that. Ohtani, let's just go through it. Ohtani, remember, on-base percentage league. So Aaron Judge goes 2 here behind Ohtani, who goes number 1. Aaron Judge had a .450 on-base percentage last year, right? So Ohtani, Judge, Soto. Bobby Witt falling to 4, which is about as far as he ever falls. Kyle Tucker going to 5th to Adam Ronis ahead of Elly De La Cruz, because even though Elly De La Cruz had a .339 on-base percentage last year, with all those strikeouts, it's not super easy, despite his swing change and the excitement about that. It's not super easy to see him posting a .350 on-base percentage. In fact, it's much easier to say he's going to be .329 this year, right? In the case of Kyle Tucker, he's not likely to replicate the 400 mark he had last year, but his his walk to strikeout ratio has basically improved every year for like the last 5 years. And last year, if I'm not mistaken, I think he walked more times than he struck out. So I'm not saying he's going to have a 400 on-base percentage again, but he's going to have 375 on-base percentage. And that's, again, big for a guy that can go 30-30 as well. So that's why I am assuming Adam Ronis took him ahead of Elly De La Cruz. Then it was Jose Ramirez, Gunnar Henderson, Mookie Betts, Corbin Carroll, Vlad Guerrero, Yordan Alvarez, again on base percentage, 400 basically for his career. Tariq Skubal was the only pitcher in the first round, Francisco Lindor, and Jackson Merrill. A couple of notes are Gunnar Henderson. There was an update on Gunnar Henderson. The team still fully expects him to be ready, playing through that issue with the side by opening day. They've run all the tests, and they're convinced everything's okay. So I guess you still draft Gunnar Henderson if you want to. Doesn't seem like this is a big issue. As we talk about all the time here on the show, taking a guy that's not 100% healthy at the start of the season, there's some risk. But I think at this point, it's a risk that you could take and not feel too badly about that. Mookie Betts in Tout Wars, if you're looking at the screen with me, you'll notice. In Tout Wars, Mookie Betts qualifies at 3 positions because Tout Wars also does one other thing. It drops the 20-game positional requirement to 15. So Betts qualifies at shortstop and outfield everywhere, but only played 18 games at second base. In Tout Wars, he also qualifies at second base. So that's, when you start talking about a first-round player, Mookie Betts, qualifying at 3 positions, that is, and then you look at Shohei Ohtani, who's the first guy taken, who qualifies at UT. I'm not saying I would take Betts over Ohtani because I obviously wouldn't, but that's a really 3 positions for a first-round player doesn't happen. I mean, that's pretty damn remarkable, and that's another, bee in the bonnet for Mookie Betts. Corbin Carroll there. Vladimir Guerrero, obviously strong on base percentage guy. Vlad's going to steal, 5 to 10 bases? It's not, I wouldn't take Vlad Guerrero there. He's fine to take. He's pushing for that new contract. I don't know. You always have to factor in and figure out for yourself, what is a player playing for a contract? What does that mean? What does that do? Does he press and struggle? Does he go to the moon because he's never tried harder? Who knows, right? I guess there's always a chance he could get traded in season 2, which could upset the apple cart a little bit. But he goes 11th overall. Again, I would make that selection 11th overall. You can see the rankings over at fantasyguru.com. Yordan Alvarez at 12. Alvarez is always hurt. I have said it before. I said it on the broadcast. I'll repeat it here. If there's one player that could go Aaron Judge this year that hasn't ever done it before, I think it's Yordan Alvarez. 300, 400, 500 slash line, boom. 30-plus home runs, 90 RBIs, boom. The problem is he's never been healthy from day 1 to the end of the season, so he could play those 155 games with health. And he's already dealing with the knee. And if he were to play 155 games healthy, he's going to hit 300 with 40 home runs and drive in 120 runs. Can he stay healthy? Tariq Skubal, I wouldn't take a pitcher in the first round. Scott White took Tariq Skubal in the first round, then backed him up in Garrett Cole in the 4th round. So a really nice duo there. I just personally wouldn't take the pitcher in the first round. Francisco Lindor, fine in the first round. Jackson Merrill and Jackson Chourio on the turn. And as I've said previously this season, though, every draft I've been in like the top 8 picks, which normally it's like, yeah, that's great. In these 15-team leagues, like, I almost want to say I want to be at the end of this draft. If I'm at the 15 turn and I got Jackson Merrill and Jackson Chourio, I'd be ecstatic. I would have gone Julio Rodriguez and Jackson Chourio and thought I had the greatest start in the history of fantasy baseball. But still, that's a damn impressive duo. Next up, we have Sarah Sanchez, who had Lindor and Kyle Schwarber. And as we mentioned off air, I don't think it got on the SiriusXM broadcast. You can actually find that broadcast on demand on the SiriusXM app if you didn't see it or hear it, excuse me. All the drafts on Sirius are there. There's another draft I'm hosting on Monday. I'm in the FSGA Champions League draft. I'm in that 15-team mixed league. I think it's 15. It might be 14. I think it's 15. I'm in that draft. I'm also hosting that on Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so you can check that out on Monday. Yeah, they put me in drafts. They love having me in drafts while I'm hosting. So doing it again. We talked about it off air, I think, in the broadcast for this Tout Wars draft. That, Kyle Schwarber is an on-base percentage guy versus a batting average guy. There's no disputing that. But is he really an on-base percentage guy? Like, his on-base percentage the last 3 years is like 10 points ahead of Julio Rodriguez for his career. So it's almost the same. And again, Julio Rodriguez went a couple of picks later here, but Kyle Schwarber is going to steal 5 bases and have a 345 on-base percentage. And, Julio Rodriguez is going to steal 35 bases and have a 331 on-base percentage. Like, one guy's younger, more dynamic. I'm Julio Rodriguez all day there. I think that's something that people react when there's a change, and make sure in your league, if there's a new change this year, you're going to solds or you're going to on-base percentage, or you're making these changes, that you don't overvalue the change. On-base percentage is still only one number, okay? And while a guy like Jordan Alvarez, you totally get, because now we're talking about a guy with a 400 on-base percentage. A 345 on base percentage for Kyle Schwarber, it's good, but should he have been in the second round? I'm not doing that. So, that's just there. Further in the second round, there are 2 more pitchers. Paul Skeens and Zach Wheeler went in the second round. And then, as we are seeing frequently in a lot of these 15-team leagues, your drafts obviously could be very different. We're usually seeing one or two in the first round, 1 or 2 pitchers in the second round. That's it. So usually 3, sometimes 4 guys in the first 30 picks. And then it goes bananas in the third round, and it did again here. Gilbert, Reagans, Snell, Crochet, DeGrom, Burns, Kirby, all those guys went in the third round. So if you're in a deeper league like this, and especially if you're thinking of doing or are doing the NFBC, their main event, that kind of thing, prepare yourself for that. Because while I don't want to take a pitcher in the first 3 rounds of a draft, everyone else does. Okay, and that's the way it's going to be. So if you're the kind of person that says, look, I think there's 10 aces on the hill, I got to get one of my 10 aces to feel good about my team, you're going to have to take a pitcher by the end of the third round. That's just what you're going to have to do. If you're more like me and you say, look, I don't care about that, I'll let people do that. I'll have 3 guys in the top 25. I'll take my guys in the 4th, 5th, and 6th, or the 5th, 6th, and 7th, or the 4th, 5th, and 7th. In a 15-team league, if I got 3 of the top 25, 30 guys, I'm still ahead, right? It's 30 pitchers. That's 2 guys a team. If I got 3 of them, I'm still ahead. I talked a lot about this with Blake Snell yesterday on the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Manza. That's every day, Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock Eastern. I'm on with him Wednesdays. Blake Snell in his career has thrown 130 innings 2 times. Not last year either. 2 times in his entire Major League career. It's going to the 3rd pick of the 3rd round? No way in hell I'm doing that. No way in hell. I don't think you should either. I mean, he's tremendous. Just as an example, where's his teammate? Blake Glasnow. Tyler Glasnow went 6'5". Is Blake Snell better than Tyler Glasnow? No. Does Blake Snell have an appreciably higher ceiling in the innings pitch mark than Tyler Glasnow? No. Would I prefer Blake Snell? Yeah, okay, sure. Do I prefer him 3 rounds ahead of Tyler Glasnow? No. So I think Blake Snell, and I'm writing a series of articles that'll come out. I think the pitching one, ADP and pitching, I think it comes out next week on Monday. Stay tuned for that, because when you're talking Dodgers pitchers, you might read what's in that article and be pretty shocked. By the way, speaking of articles over at FG, the late round pitching article went up today. So now we've got, how do you build your team if you take pitching early? How do you build your team if you take pitching in the middle? and how do you build pitching if you take it late. So there's 3 different articles going through ADP, assuming a 12-team league. You have the 6 picks. You're kind of right in the middle of the draft. How does it go? I put together a team based on ADP, and how do they turn out? And so there's 3 ways to do it. Obviously, your league is not going to go exactly by ADP, but it's my way of doing a like Manifesto, where we try to predict how your draft is going to go and what your team will look like if you do version A, version B, or version C. And then in the end of the one that's posted today, the late round pitching, all 3 of the teams are lined up next to each other, and you can take a look. Now, these are obviously put together by me, by players I love. So all the teams to me look pretty good, but that's because I have some bias for players. Maybe you look at some of these teams and like, oh, this is crap. I would never do this. I'm not comfortable doing this. That's why we have those options. At least you can get a sense of if you want to go the pitching early route, the wait a little bit, or the really wait. So basically, we've got the pitching early, which none of us ever want to do at FG. You've got the wait a little bit, which is me, and then you got to wait a lot, which is Jeff Mans. So it's really interesting. Hopefully, you find those 3 articles pretty interesting as well. Another thing to look at in this league, and all your leagues are different. I know some leagues are 1 catcher, some are 2. Many leagues are 10 and 12 teams. This is 15. So there's a variety of ways to build a catcher spot. Seth Trackman double tapped early, Cal Raleigh and Sal Perez. Looking for some big power numbers from the catcher spot, giving him a huge advantage there. Some people didn't take, catching at all. I mean, you look at the Scott White that we talked to on the broadcast. Scott White took his catchers in rounds 27 and 28, Drake Baldwin and Dalton Rushing. To me, that's a horrific combination because Baldwin's going to be the starter for the Braves for a month, and then Murphy's back, and we have no idea when Rushing's even going to show up in the big leagues. That's taking it too far. Now, I've written about my teams where, I'm getting Gabriel Moreno, Tyler Stevenson, which is a great first catcher in a 15-teamer, in my opinion, and then ending up with Danny Rodriguez as well as my second catcher. So I've split the difference between overly investing and then not investing at all. Again, many ways to do that. I think some of the other fascinating ways to do it is looking at the teams and the way they've been built. Rudy Gamble, the champion last year, he did a mix and match approach. He went Ohtani and Chisholm. Then he went Logan Gilbert, Teoscar Hernandez, Framber Valdez. So power, speed, pitcher, like a nice combination. I'm trying to find another team. Then you went Seth Trackman, who had 1 starting pitcher in his first 8 selections. So he went a lot of hitting. Let's see here. You look at Ryan Bloomfield, hitter, pitcher. And interestingly enough, he went rounds 5, 6, and 7 pitchers, which is kind of that middle pitching route. 2 starters in Imanaga and Ober, and 1 reliever in Munoz. So and that's another thing that, I've thought about a lot, and I'm sure you have as well, is if you're going to do that middle route of pitching, do you go starter, which is what I normally do, or do you go starter, reliever, which a lot of other people do, such as Ryan Bloomfield? So, remember this, and I said this repeatedly on the broadcast for this TOUT Wars draft. You're drafting a closer in the first 4 rounds, and I mean, look at this. Let me look at the closers. How they come off the board. Wendell Clause was third round. 4th round was Hader, Mason Miller, Devin Williams, Edwin Diaz, Ryan Helsley, Raisel Iglesias. That's about as early a closer run as you're going to find. In the 4th round, like over a third of the picks were relievers. And we were talking to the people on the broadcast, and the sense was people said, well, I got to get a closer that I can trust, like an anchor closer, and then I'll get a second one that's okay. People believing, which is disproven every single year, that you get that lockdown closer, you're good to go. It just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't. Guys don't routinely rip off 30 save seasons year after year after year. It just doesn't happen. I've said, how many times have I said the Edwin Diaz thing? Edwin Diaz has 1 season of 35 saves. 1. It was 2019, I think. 18 or 19. 19? Let's go 19. 6 years ago. It's the only time he had 35 saves. Why is he being drafted in the 4th round? Because and I know he gets a ton of strikeouts, and if how I love the if game, he's going to give me 105 strikeouts if he's healthy, right? Which is a lot more than if I take David Bednar and he gets 81. David Bednar saves 29 games, and Edwin Diaz saves 34 games. Who would you rather have? Would you rather have Bednar 10 rounds later? So you can't predict whether the guy's going to have 38 or 32 saves. You don't know that. No one knows. Projection models, they don't know. They're guessing. Josh Hader could pitch the exact same way as he's pitched the previous years and save 29 games this year. Could just happen. So the whole reliever early thing is not a direction I would go. Certainly not in the first 4 rounds. That's just not for Ray Flowers. Maybe it's for you, and that's something that you can determine. So anyway, the link for all of this is in the description below, whether you're on the podcast or on YouTube. If you're on Facebook or Twitter X, head over to youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You can find all the shows there. You can watch the shows there, and you can find the link to this draft board as well. So there's that draft. So we'll move on from that draft. Again, I got another one on Monday that I'll be hosting. It's the last industry league I'm in, I believe, this year. It's the FSGA 15-team Champions League. The oblique injury, the oblique strain, if you will, is kind of the new thing. It used to be ACL, right? And then it became, maybe it was Tommy John first and then ACL, but basically it's been Tommy John and ACL surgeries as, those are the 2 issues that we always deal with, knees and elbows. And recently we started hearing oblique. Just for the last 5 years, it's become the injury. So let's define what it is, and I'm going to read the scientific lingo for a second here. An oblique strain. The oblique muscle lie alongside the rectus abdominal muscles, ones that make up the 6-pack. It's responsible for core rotation and control. So basically, if you put your hands on your sides and run, your 6-pack, right? So your mid-chest down to your waist, kind of right here, your lats in the back. I'm not doing a very good job of showing this. Right, learn how to use camera. Your lat is in the back, right? Your oblique is on the side, okay? And so anytime you twist, which is every time you swing or every time you throw, you're engaging your core, right? And the oblique strain is become synonymous with baseball players because of the torsion they put on their torso. So I'll continue to read here. Like muscle strains, the oblique strain is broken down into 3 grades. Grade 1 is mild, grade 2 is moderate, grade 3 is severe. In the case of Luis Heel, right, he's going to be shut down for at least 6 weeks. These things happen. Long time, and I got this is all from MLB.com. Longtime trainer Stan Conti, who worked with the Giants and then the Dodgers. Here's a quote from him. Players are bigger, stronger, and faster than ever, and this has led to an increase in velocity and bat speed. They go together. If a pitcher throws harder, the hitter has to go reciprocal bat speed to catch up. He has to explode more and swing harder. Common sense, but true, okay? So we're talking about these sudden actions, right? Remember, baseball players stand around. Baseball player could stand around for 30 minutes between really doing anything. You're out there in right field, picking your nose, waving at people. Go in the dugout, don't get in the bat. Go back in the outfield, throw around a little bit to warm up. No balls are hit to you, run back in, sit on the bench. You can go, and all of a sudden, now we got to go, right? Okay. If it's 92 degrees and if it's 46 and you're kind of, Red Sox trainer Mike Reinold, who is the champion of physical therapy and performance in Waltham, Massachusetts. Here's what he had to say. He basically said that the way players are growing up, they're playing many sports, right? And I'm reading from the article. After years of pounding, often reach the big leagues with some kind of impingement or limited range of motion in their hips, because when I was a kid, we played when I was young 25 game seasons, 35, 40 game seasons, and now then the traveling team started when I was getting older, and then you're playing baseball year round, and then you're jumping in a basketball league, and your body you're doing all these things, and I'm dealing with it now. My back is jacked up, my shoulders hurt. I had a cortisone shot yesterday. My shoulders, for those people that don't know, not that it matters, I got a couple of tears in my rotator cuff in my left arm, my left shoulder. You just wear down. And Mike Reinold is suggesting that people are having maybe some hip issues. And especially in hitters or pitchers, when their hips are tight, you don't rotate as well. So if you're not rotating as well, you're putting more stress on your oblique, because instead of your whole body being able to move, right, you're more upper. I know you're not seeing this, but you get the point, right? If any part of the connective tree isn't operating properly, the other pieces have to, instead of the whole body moving, if only this part's moving, there's just more stress on it. So if you react quickly to a breaking ball when you're expecting a fastball, as an example, you can have an awkward swing, what Mike is saying, of course. And that could end up with an oblique strain, because you're trying to do one move and you have to do another move. So it's not only are you making this huge, quick move to swing, you're then making a move in the swing to change, you're trying to keep your hands back or whatever it might be, right? So the bottom line is that there is no real way to avoid oblique injuries. I mean, because we see this all the time, and it's like we say it every day. I'm talking to Phil Backert all the time on IM, and it's like every day a pitcher gets hurt, and it seems like every day someone hurts an oblique. And it's like it's not like these players don't know that this is an issue. They all know this is an issue. I'm sure they all actively work to combat this. And it brings back the old discussion that we have all the time when we start talking about these injuries. Are the players too tightly wound? I mean, is that the problem here? That they're not ready to go. I just remembered, what I just remember, folks? I didn't even send the note to Tyler Beaker on how to get into the show today. That's great hosting, Ray. Let's see here. Tyler, hopefully Tyler will make it now. If Tyler doesn't make it, folks, it's my fault because I forgot to send him the link on how to get into the show. He's supposed to join us in about 5 minutes. If he doesn't show, it's my fault. He just said he got it. Okay, so Tyler should be here in a couple minutes. The oblique injury is occurring because players are bigger, faster, stronger, which is in theory a good thing. Guys come into camp in better shape. They're training all off season to get it. All these guys are trying to gain velocity on the pitch, trying to gain velocity on the swing. They're working on launch angles. Like they're all working to improve. They're getting paid gazillions of dollars to do this, right? They're all trying very hard to become better at their craft. So you can't fault them for that. But then I always joke around. I'm like, here's Luis Arias, who I don't know if he has any muscles. He just goes out there and plays every day and has 200 hits. I mean, I jokingly always go to Rick Russell, who was a great athlete. Rick Russell was a pitcher, for those of you who don't remember. Rick Russell used to pinch hit. Like, it was a different world back then. But still, Rick Russell, a pitcher, would pinch hit. Like, he was a really good athlete. And he was rotund, husky, the words they used to use for me when I was a kid. He was kind of fat. They say 6'3", 240. He had a belly, kind of fat. He never got hurt. He pitched, I mean, look at his numbers. These are innings pitched. 230, 240, 230, 260, 250, 240, 240, 257. Then he had a couple years where, he was in the bullpen a little bit. Then, he's in his 30s and he's going 215, 227, 245, 200. Is there something to be said for these guys getting too muscular, too wound up? If you're operating at 100%, whether it's your computer, whether it's your car, anything, right? If it's 100%, you're taxing it to the absolute most. Doesn't it just seem obvious that you're straining yourself and at some point it's going to break? If you back that off to 90%, isn't it going to last longer? So anyway, there's no answer to the oblique injury. I just wanted to go through what it is because, again, it's something we'll read about, hear about on almost a daily basis here through spring. To wrap up the conversation, oblique strain, if it's really a strain, anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks is generally the expected time return. So 2 to 6 weeks, which is big, right? It's a couple of weeks, and one short IL stint, it's a month and a half. Now, it could be longer than that because if you have a setback here, it's one of those injuries that you really can't do much with, right? When you have it, you kind of just got to stop. And again, anything rotational, you can't do it. So what you do? Ride a bike? Lift weights with your legs? Like, there's not a lot you can do. So 2 to 6 weeks is a general time frame for an oblique. Sometimes it can be longer than that, unfortunately. All right, so Tyler Beaker, who is waiting anxiously for me to pull my head out of my rear end and remember to send him the link on how to get to the damn show today, was on Johnny on the spot. So let's thank him for being Johnny on the spot. He was waiting diligently, and luckily I remembered at the last second. I mentioned it on the show, Tyler. I was like, oh, I didn't tell Tyler how to get into the show. Tyler, you got into the show. How you doing?
Doing good, Ray. Pretty excited to chat with you now from a new state. Excited for this week's show here.
Yeah, how did the move go? I'm sure it's not done yet, but you got the internet working, so you're kind of settled in here. How's it going?
Good. We're up and running. That's all that I can say. Hopefully by Sunday, we got I'll say 90% of the stuff unpacked. We got a guest room. We'll let that be the last one we deal with.
By the way, Eric Sebastian said, I didn't think I'd get a Rick Russell reference. Scott Garrelts, we were talking baseball, the Giants. Scott Garrelts, who had these, if people forget, huge glasses, because it was like the 80s and 90s. Huge mustache. He looked like Tom Selleck with glasses. And I actually saw him throw a pitch at Candlestick Park where he threw a fastball that hit the lip of the front of the home plate and bounced over the backstop. So it skipped off the plate and went over like a 25-foot backstop into like the 12th row of the crowd. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. I've never, ever seen that again. I actually saw it with my own eyes. I wouldn't have believed it. But yeah, Eric, old school Giants here. We'll move on to football talk because I don't think Tyler wants to talk about 1986 Scott Gerelts, even though I wouldn't mind it. So you're in the new spot. It's working out. Things are starting good. You got a nice little, I see your office. Don't have your things on the wall yet, but you'll think you got a good spot setting up here. And you missed a lot of stuff when you didn't probably think you were going to miss much stuff. Like a lot of things happened in football the last couple of days. So let's talk about it since we visited with you a week ago. The combine, it's kind of in the past now, and there's all the reports out and everything like that. You have a takeaway or two about anything revolving around the process with the combine?
Yeah, a few actually. One of the things we talked about last week was the wide receivers from Texas. They ended up stealing the show quite a bit. Matthew Golden, I think he talked himself into round one consideration, running a 4.29 at 191 pounds. Shout out to the NFL.com's website for finally getting into the 21st century with some sortable tables, and we're able to now filter prospects through their database dating back multiple years. Fun stat about Golden. Among all wide receivers to participate at the NFL Combine over the last decade, so the last 10 years, at 190 plus pounds or more.
Oh,
Golden.
I think Tyler froze up. It's either me or Tyler. Well,
no, I think it's Ray. I'll say that Golden checks in number 1 in the 40 at a 4.29 and number 16 tied in the 10-yard split. So he's got not just great straightaway speed, but also that quick burst and acceleration. His teammate Isaiah Bond, we talked about him as well. He had the highest mile per hour tracked by Next Gen Stats at 24.17 among all wide receivers. So shout out to those guys. Golden's now elevated to the wide receiver 2 in odds of being the first wide receiver drafted, plus 130 over on FanDuel. We're still looking at Tet McMillan with higher odds, but I thought Golden was at least worth bringing up again, considering he was somebody we talked about a week ago.
Would you by the way, to interrupt you, would you bet any of this stuff? I would never, but would you lay a bet on any of this stuff, draft pick stuff?
I'll actually segue right into that right now.
Okay, all right.
Offensive tackle, I thought, was also pretty impressive. We saw Armand Mambu from Missouri, pardon me. Really, really shine in terms of his athletic testing. Prior to the combine, it looked like Will Campbell from LSU was considered by many to be the offensive tackle number 1 in the class. He did have some measured short arms, and to some, I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it was noteworthy. They weren't, like, in my estimation, a red flag. It was just shorter than expectation. Membu bested Campbell in arm length, 40, 10-yard split, vertical, broad, and he got 31 reps on the bench press. Really, really athletic prospect here. 9.89 RAS, which is the relative athletic score. Shout out by MathBottom, who does that stuff, which is 17th. That might just be a number to some of you guys. The context here, that's the 17th best athleticism measured at the NFL Combine out of 1,395 offensive tackles from 1987 all the way to this year.
Wow.
17th most athletic guy. If we switch him to offensive guard, he goes from 9.89 to 9.99. This dude is very, very athletic. So for that reason, this guy really elevated his stock. He's now the favorite in terms of offensive tackle to go off the board, number 1, minus 115 odds. I kind of still don't mind Will Campbell, who got a minor ding by one. All it takes is one team to just say, I don't care that he has a 1-inch shorter arm length than Membu to merit taking him. He's got great tape as well. Both these guys, I think, should be very close to the plus 100. We're getting better odds on Campbell. So he would be actually a play that I don't mind taking. Will Campbell, first offensive lineman taken. I'm debating making that post. I'm finally in a state where I can bet on the NFL draft. I've been devouring this stuff like for it feels like a decade whenever this was extremely exploitable, and I was just unable to get any action down. So I'm going to try to get some stuff out there for our Fantasy Guru members. I'm going to tease that as a possible bet. I'm still debating whether or not to post that. The final takeaway I had from the NFL Combine is this running back class is very, very fast. These guys have great speed scores, which combines weight and the 40 time. So these are size-adjusted speed scores. Looking at players with a speed score of 100 or greater over the last 3 years at the NFL Combine, this class made up 17 of the 34 that clear that threshold. And that's without Ashton Giante sitting out these drills. So dynasty owners, get ready for a lot of shakeup here at the RB group. How they're just going to shake up the entire landscape here and change a lot of values. Guys like Virginia Tech's Bashal Tutin and Kansas State's DJ Giddens, they were 2 risers in my eyes. checking the boxes of expected athleticism and really, really shining from a lot of metrics. And these guys are players that I'm excited to see where they get drafted now.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. So we'll move away from the what's going to happen to the what is happening with the NFL. And, the Bears threw Justin Fields to some respects to the Wolves, didn't have any offensive line around him, didn't have any weapons around him. They move on from him. They bring in Caleb Williams. They bring in all these weapons for Caleb Williams. And now this offseason, they're bringing in all kinds of help for Caleb Williams. They've brought 2 guys in on the offensive line. And I got to say that, you look at what he struggled with last year, holding on to the ball too long, taking sacks and all that. If they can set a pocket for him this year, I mean, sky's the limit with Caleb Williams. The Bears doing everything they can to help him out this year.
Yeah, when you add in the element of Ben Johnson's offense, and when we talk about pre-snap motion, getting rid of the ball quickly, now we add 2 guards, the Rams' Jonah Jackson, who came from Detroit previously, reunites with Ben Johnson, and Kansas City's Joe Thuney. Really, really like these additions here. Last year, Caleb Williams, 68 sacks, 10.8% sack rate. That 68 led the league, not too far off David Carr's infamous 76 sack season. So these are some big helps. The only offensive line surety that they had was right tackle Darnell Wright. Help along the interior line, very, very big. And Johnson's offense, they in Detroit, they had a lot of inside zone, a lot of outside zone, adding guards that have some versatility to them, super helpful. I also like the Saints offensive line coach he comes from the Saints, Dan Richard, who's the new offensive line coach for Chicago, has also some great ability in terms of turning around some talent and maximizing what he has. Bears have not had a Pro Bowl offensive lineman since 2018. Saints top 5 unit in sack prevention in multiple years under Richard's tutelage. So I'm excited to see that. Hopefully we get Jackson back to his Detroit form. He was benched for inefficiency in Los Angeles. So he's kind of a reclamation project, but not a massive one in my estimation. Just really, really curious to see how this plays out. But yeah, Hal makes a good point. Didn't Caleb hold the ball a lot in college too? Yeah, this is something that that we need to get out of his system. And I think Ben Johnson's system, for lack of a better word, is the best one to do so, given the short reads, the quick reads, and the play action, which are going to provide some hopefully large windows for the pass catchers here. Big move here by Chicago, getting them a lot of help to help their franchise quarterback.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Moving on to the wide receiver position with Seattle. They let Tyler Lockett go. No one's surprised by that. The contract, his age and all that. DK Metcalf, and it's okay. So they apparently are allowing DK Metcalf to do the old, hey, who wants me? Search for a trade. They're apparently asking for a 1st and a 3rd round pick, which is a pretty high price to pay for a guy who doesn't have a contract beyond this year. One of the intriguing things about DK Metcalf is I think he's making about $18 million, so he's rather inexpensive for a top-level wide receiver. He clearly has all the physical tools necessary to be a star. He's, I think, 27 years old. He's, if you're going to get a wide receiver to change your offense, he's the guy. So do you think that 1st and 3rd round pick makes sense? Any inclination on where he might go? Do you get what the Seattle Seahawks are doing? Who's going to be catching passes this year besides JSN?
It feels really rich. Round 1 plus some extra day 2 capital. I saw ESPN's Bill Barnwell compare this to the Stephon Diggs trade that happened a few years back when he was with Minnesota, going from Minnesota over to Buffalo. And that just cost a singular round 1 pick, with both Diggs and Metcalf at about the same age when those deals happened. To me, that feels like a really good apples to apples comparison. And I'd expect something like that to unfold, a round 1 pick, singular round 1 pick for Metcalf. He's also eyeing a deal where he wants to get paid north of $30 million a year. That's top 5 status right now. He has 1 year left on his deal, as you mentioned. So whoever is trading for him, they should view this as a long-term investment. So I look at young quarterback situations where he could be a player that builds rapport with a quarterback for years to come. The Chargers seem like a good fit with Justin Herbert, getting him a outside wideout.
Oh, that'd be whew. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
They've got the 3rd most cap space now after that release of Joey Bosa this morning or late last night. $91 million. And they let Josh Palmer walk. Quentin Johnson's still kind of a question mark. We've seen some flashes, but yeah, getting him a big vertical outside guy seems like a great fit for I think a great pairing with Lad McConkey, what we've seen from Justin Herbert. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. New England's also in the hunt for an alpha wide receiver one. They're a team that has talked about openly trying to trade for A.J. Brown. We know Vrabel has those A.J. Brown ties to Tennessee. Maybe we see some kind of poetic justice where instead of getting Brown, they get his Ole Miss running mate from back in the day with Metcalf. It makes sense to give Drake May a big alpha wide receiver one. And then Denver, I think they could also use some help on the outside. They've got Cortland Sutton, sure, but he's age 30, entering the final year of his contract. Bo Nix needs some big-bodied wideouts, and they aren't quite as flush as cash as compared to the Chargers, third highest cap space, or the Patriots, number 1 in highest cap space. But again, Sutton's 30. He's entering the final year of his contract. We could see like a natural passing the baton with Metcalf being added there. So those are some teams that I thought made sense. You could honestly list like 5 to 6 more. John Daigle, a guy I used to work with, tweeted out which teams make sense for DK Metcalf, and he listed every single team in the league.
Right.
Every team could use Metcalf.
Well, the Niners could use him now because they obviously moved on from Deebo Samuel. We didn't get a chance to hear your thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on what the Niners have left over and what Deebo brings to the Commanders with his move there for was like a 5th-round pick? It wasn't expensive at all.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is the injury for Ayuk, who happened in week 7 last year, the torn ACL, torn MCL. Everything I read from that's like an 11 to 12 month recovery. That's best case scenario. So I think we're really expecting big steps forward from Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. We saw big flashes from Jennings at times. We saw 1 or 2 games from Pearsall late down the stretch. Even George Kittle, I expect to get involved more. So the Deebo trade was a bit surprising to me given the Ayuk status. That said, Deebo's kind of worn out his welcome. I mean, I feel like he's like a fan favorite, but the coaching staff maybe just like, okay, just come in camp in shape and do your job.
Right.
Him going elsewhere is not a major surprise to me. I'm really just more bullish on the Niners leftovers in Kittle, Jennings, and Pearsall over guys like Deebo or Ayuk. Ayuk, I'm really trying at this point. It's March 6th. Let's take a breath. Right. I'm not trying to invest heavily in Niners wideouts. Let me rephrase that. In any wideout that's coming off a massive injury. I want to get more information, and I feel like we can be risk averse in other directions than injuries. And then as for Deebo, new offense, Cliff Kingsbury, I think he had some much needed help there at the wide receiver position. Stinks because I was really aggressively into Terry McLaurin this year. I thought he was going to have another big season. I'm not super bullish into Deebo either. I feel like he's kind of hit his high mark, 20 plus fantasy points in about 20% of his games over the last 3 years combined. So he has some ceiling. It's just not consistently there for a player that I think fantasy owners put up here, but the production's maybe a little bit down here.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. You can find his best ball data over at fantasyguru.com. By the way, you click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, you get all his best ball data, his rankings, all of that kind of over there. If you're looking to make those teams, put those teams together right now in the month of March. Christian Kirk is kind of like Deebo Samuel in that at one point he was pretty much a star in the fantasy space, right? It was a couple years ago, and then some injuries, kind of hit him, and new direction here in Jacksonville, and Kirk is gone. So, Kirk certainly seems like he still has the skills to be, catching 80 passes out of the slot for somebody. But what do you see with Christian Kirk? You do a lot of work with the receivers at Fantasy Guru. Is there something going on with Kirk beyond the injuries that suggests to you that this guy's done? Do you agree with this decision by the Jaguars?
No, I don't believe he's done whatsoever. He's still age 28 years old. I think he's coming off a collarbone injury, so it's not something serious. I think he's going to be a highly sought after receiver relative to like a lot of these age 30 plus wideouts like Diggs, Amari Cooper, Hopkins. I like the pairing of him going to Chicago actually, where he'll join Press Taylor, who was the Jaguars offensive coordinator. He's now the Bears passing game coordinator, where Kirk could be a 1-for-1 replacement for Keenan Allen. Right. I always try to find those previous coaches to player connections there. I felt like Jacksonville was either going to get rid of Kirk or Engram, just because everything we've heard from Liam Cohen has been basically Brian Thomas is the guy they want to center this passing attack around, and rightfully so. I thought there would be a ramping up period. Nope, it was straight rocket launcher to the moon. This dude is a superstar in the making. Makes sense to make him the focal point of your passing attack, and taking away a target guy like Kirk in order to give more targets to BTJ makes a lot of sense to me. So I think Kirk's going to be a guy that's going to be getting a lot of buzz in the open market now that he's out there. Saves $10 million for Jacksonville. I think it was kind of a net W for everyone.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. The Rams still saying that Cooper Kupp is going to get moved. I think the quote was something like, the least likely outcome is Kupp remaining, from one of the front office people for the Rams. Maybe it was the GM. So Kupp, they're still looking to trade. They did bring back Matthew Stafford. That's weird. I don't know. Matthew Stafford at 375 years old is, they want to pay him $50 million. I don't really get that. Okay. What's the Rams offense? I guess that's the real takeaway. With Stafford back and Kupp gone, what are the vibes we're getting out of Ramland right now?
Vibes are great. We signed Tutu Atwell to a 1-year, $10 million contract.
Really? Someone argued with me last year about how good he is. I'm like, he's not. He's just a guy. It's he can fill a role, but he's not a wide receiver too. Like, come on.
Yeah, maybe in Madden where you can use that speed to some.
Right.
Yeah. 37-year-old Stafford. I found this super interesting. That the Giants hit the money on Stafford and the trade compensation that the Rams wanted. The deal was all but set, but Stafford backed out and decided to stay with the Rams for less money. So that we weren't crazy about talking about Stafford at the Giants. There was a lot of smoke to that fire. Fortunately, it didn't play out that way. So now we got 37-year-old Stafford back there with Nakua and Tutu and Jordan Whittington. I imagine they're going to get a guy to fill that Kupp role, given how big of a role Kupp has historically played these last few years in this offense. They just need somebody to be added there, and I don't think that it's Tutu or Whittington. They're just not of that same ilk. Right. Kupp, on the other hand, you said GM Les Snead said the least likely scenario is him not returning. That seems the most probable outcome. And don't forget, this team tried to trade him during the trade deadline last year when the Rams were just kind of like round 500. There was a weird situation with both him and Nakua returning from injury. Kupp, I believe, could go to like literally any squad. We just talked about Jacksonville. I could see him going there, hopefully on a team where they need to get Trevor Lawrence's game to the next level. Adding a veteran makes sense to me there. I think Kupp could go literally to almost any team. His veteran presence and his ability to win in the slot, inside, outside, super, super helpful. I think he'll be a highly sought after guy. That said, for fantasy, not a player I really want to invest in because he's probably a better on-field impact than a fantasy impact.
Russell Wilson to the Raiders to join his old coach. Makes sense. Recent reports suggest it's not likely to happen, though. What are the Raiders doing? They're apparently kicking the tires on everybody, and they're kind of striking out here, Tyler.
Yeah, there was some speculation of that Russ to Pete Carroll reunion and didn't really come through. My guess is Russell Wilson hits free agency, likely serving as a bridge option for some franchise. The Raiders entered this draft with the number 6 overall pick, and I'm expecting Miami's Cam Ward to be a top 3 pick. And when we look at the 3 teams in the top 3, it's Tennessee, Cleveland, New York Giants. All 3 of these guys could use a quarterback. There's also a chance that blue chippers like Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, these guys are too valuable to pass up with the other 2 remaining squads. And I think there's a pretty large divide between Cam Ward and any other quarterback in this class, making that the case where if we see number 4, who is New England, they've already got a quarterback. Number 5, Jacksonville, they've already got a quarterback. There's a chance where the Raiders are able to just sit pat at number 6 and take their pick of the litter of the number 2 quarterback, whether that be Shedeur Sanders or any other player they want to take.
Right.
So my thoughts right now are they're probably just going to wait this one out, maybe add a veteran. Who knows what's going on with Sam Darnold at this stage? He could be the one that's caught still standing when the game of musical chairs ends with free agency. Right. That's a real possibility. And if that unfolds, feels like Las Vegas could be a spot for any veteran quarterback, to be honest. And then at number 6, they take their quarterback of the future. Like Carroll wants to do a culture of winning. The problem is you need a quarterback capable of making that come true. That's what this whole team is going to operate around, not just the head coach, the quarterback. They need to invest well here. So they can't miss at number 6, whether that means trading up, whether that means finding a way to get a veteran or doing something. Las Vegas, I think, should be very active in the QB market this offseason.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. You sent me a note and said, hey, Ray, I'd like to talk about the Eagles GM who's extending and re-signing unconventional positions. And I think part of that has to do with giving Saquon Barkley $7 trillion. It was 2 years, $41 million, whatever. But I get it. It's good to see a running back get paid, but $20 million for a running back. We're in the stratosphere there for a guy who's not getting any younger, Tyler.
Yeah, extending Saquon, I thought it was a very notable move given the timing of it, doing it right before free agency, kind of resetting the bar in the market for the running back position, and really showing, I guess, other free agents how willing the Eagles are to pay their players prior to their contracts ending and paying them ahead of schedule when merited based off good play. To me, that just makes Philadelphia a very coveted place to go to for free agents, knowing that the general manager tends to reward their guys in-house. I talked about it being unconventional positions because we don't typically see Howie Roseman extend off-ball linebackers or running backs. He did the same with Zach Bond. He gave them a massive 3-year, $51 million deal. Fourth highest paid inside linebacker now. I think that's absolutely bonkers to me, given like the guys they've had in recent seasons where they just taken them as 1-year rentals and then moved on to the next guy. Especially Bond's story itself. Like, he was a pass rushing linebacker. To have him shift to off ball and then have this like near all pro season, what a great 365 days for Zach Bond and his family. I just thought it was very interesting given Roseman's typical MO of trenches, cornerback, quarterback. Just seemed a bit out the norm for him. So I'm curious if it comes to bite them in the future where maybe he's riding the high a little bit too much and comes back to bite them with where they have to let guys go like Josh Sweat, up and coming edge rusher, or defensive tackle Milton Williams, a guy that the metrics really, really like. Those are two guys that I think could be on the outside looking in if the Eagles end up spending all their money before they have the chance to retain any of their other free agents this offseason.
Tyler Beaker, fantasyguru.com. Tyler, you're moving, you're busy, you're running around, you're doing A, you're doing B. You have any time to start writing? What should people expect from you over at fantasyguru.com? What's coming out of the pen and paper with you here in the near future? Excuse me.
Yep, just updated my best ball rankings yesterday. They've been posted to the website, so they're available for download over on Underdog. You're able to pull them up and upload them onto the website, or that allows you to use those rankings over ADP. A lot of shakeup after this NFL Combine and some of the recent news and acquisitions for some players. It was more than I expected, but I've put some rookies that I'm very bullish on a bit higher, expecting them to continue to rise as we get closer to draft day, and some guys that I'm lower on a bit more aggressively in the back as some early fades. Content-wise, hoping to get some rookie profiles out on the website soon. We've got, a month and a half basically until the NFL draft, so we've got to start getting those guys out. Free agency is about to hit. There's plenty of content out on our way.
I mean, it's an exciting time, I guess. I always poo-poo the NFL. It's like, why are we talking about this all the time? But I will say they do a great job of hype. They do a great job of staying relevant. And like in baseball, when free agency, this is a big thing that I always hit on, Tyler. When baseball free agency hits, it's the long game, right? There's still guys that haven't signed now. Baseball season starts in 3 weeks. There's still players that haven't even signed that are still free agents. Football free agency happens, and before it even happens, guys are signing, right? Unofficially. It's always, they do a great job of the marketing, and they make it a 365 game a year sport.
Absolutely. It's the biggest sport in the world, and that's not true. It's the biggest sport in America, and I expect it to continue to be at the forefront of our news cycle 24/7, 365.
He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. Tyler joins us every Thursday at about 12:30 Eastern Standard Time to talk over football. As he noted there, lots of things coming, lots of things already there, lots of things coming over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get his work, all of the team's work as well. Send a note to support@fantasyguru.com if you got any questions about anything, about any of the sports, any of the packages, any of the deals, support@fantasyguru.com. We will talk with Tyler again in a week. Thank you, Tyler, for coming on, for putting up with me, not sending you the link to get in the room. Appreciate that. And looking good in the new digs there. So hope it all continues to go well for you.
Thanks. Good luck to everyone, and good luck with anyone in the baseball drafts coming up.
Thank you, Tyler. I have one. My last official one, I think, is on Monday. Do you like slow drafts, by the way? I'm in multiple slow drafts right now. I hate it. last thing before we head out? Do you like slow drafts?
I like fast and slow. You just got to know what you're entering and adjust accordingly.
God, I hate the slow drafts. And my picks, because I'm on the West Coast, my picks always come up anywhere between 8 at night and 6 in the morning. It's almost universal, too. So set that cue, folks, if you're in a slow draft. He's Tyler Beaker. I'm Ray Flowers. Tyler will be back with us next Thursday. Tomorrow we'll be back here on this show at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Myself and Russell Clay. Have a great day. We'll see you in 23 hours here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com.